The following program is a public access production. Comcast is required to provide time on this channel and make it available pursuant to franchise agreements with the communities we serve. Comcast is not affiliated with the following program or the producers of public access programming and is not responsible for the content. The following program does not reflect the opinions of Comcast or its affiliates.
Good evening. I'm Ellen Roberts, I'm your host this evening for Senior Issues, Etc. Today we're talking to two ladies from the PADS organization to help homeless individuals. Megan is the director and Audrey is a volunteer. And actually it's Megan Powell-Filler and Audrey McCarthy. And if you could introduce yourselves to our guests and just a quick little bio, and we'll get into the important work you ladies do.
All right. Well, thank you, Ellen. My name is Megan Powell-Filler. I'm the executive director at PADS Lake County. I have been with PADS for almost 6 years now. I've just been the executive director for the past year. And PADS serves individuals and families experiencing homelessness or a housing crisis. So anybody who's experiencing a housing crisis, we will serve and try to connect them with the services they need to get them out of homelessness or their current situation as quickly as possible. I have been in this field for about 15 years, and I've just found this my passion. I keep being drawn towards it. I enjoy the people I work with. They're the most passionate and dedicated people that I have ever worked with before, to really try to help move our neighbors experiencing homelessness out of their current situation.
Thank you. Great. And Audrey, how did you become involved? And a little bit about yourself and volunteering.
Sure. My name is Audrey McCartney, and I became involved as a PADS volunteer through my church, Cross Life Church in Libertyville. Over 20 years ago. My church has been involved for over 25 years, and I have been a volunteer at their overnight shelter, the emergency shelters that PADS runs in Lake County. I work usually from 3 a.m. to 7 a.m. as a volunteer. But I have been food volunteer, different things. As my family grew up, I did different things as a volunteer for PADS, brought food, made food, and now for the last 10 years or so, I've been an on-site volunteer at an emergency shelter in Grays Lake. My church supports another church who hosts it, and so once a month we give them respite and fill in as the volunteers and the food and all the volunteer services they need that night.
Okay, well that's, get up and get there at 3 in the morning. You're a better man than I gunga did. But that's wonderful. So for the clients who want to become need your assistance, there's a main center in Waukegan where these individuals come and get checked in and ID and everything like that. So if anyone knows someone who need of the assistance, how would they go about contacting you? Or
Yeah, so they can come into our main center, so we call it the Day Resource Center. It's in Waukegan at 1800 Grand Avenue. That's where we have all of our case management services and our intake. So people experiencing homelessness or the housing crisis can come into our services, meet with an intake coordinator, and she will do a brief assessment with them, gather their demographic information, try to figure out what their current situation is in order to best help them and connect them with what services are appropriate for them. We try to identify who needs shelter versus who needs assistance where they are just staying. So some people are not experiencing homelessness. They might be staying with family or friends, but really need that assistance to get into some kind of affordable housing. They might be facing an eviction because of a late payment for rent. So we really try to connect them with community resources to help them stay where they are. But that's where our intake coordinator kind of decides what best services they would be appropriate for at our main location.
Well, that's good to know, because I think a lot of times we think you have to wait until you're on the street before you can get help, whereas you would rather people came in, you know, before then, you know, stitch in time sort of thing, rather than, you know, when you're
Yes.
truly desperate, or if you know someone who's in need of assistance, or know somebody who knows somebody, kind of thing, you know,
Yes.
to get involved before it's too, well, I'd say too late, but more desperate.
Yes. No, we would definitely like to know beforehand. So if people have been staying with friends or family, or even in a motel for, you know, 3 or 4 months, we'd like to help them get connected with one of our case managers before they have to enter into our shelter system.
Well, that's nice if they've got a single person to talk to, you know, instead of it's always somebody different, so you're telling your story over and over again.
Exactly.
It's more, you know, respectful for everybody involved that way.
Yes.
All right. Well, that's good. Now, you know, we spoke earlier in that there are a lot of different things that you have that you can assist people with in terms of. I was very excited to hear that one of the podiatrists will come into the day thing and help people with foot care, which can be, you know, so serious for all of us. It just, before you know it, you know, a little sore toe becomes an infection. So
Yes.
that, you know, if you give us a little information on that.
Well, yeah, we really tried to work with our community agencies to really try to pull in as many resources as we can. Lake County has a lot of agencies and that really specialize in stuff that we can't. So we work with Rosalind Franklin University, who comes in every other week to do brief screening assessments, medical assessments with our clients, and then the Lake County Health Department goes to our shelters at night to meet with clients at the shelter sites to get, you know, immediate medical assistance or to schedule appointments right after. So it's really convenient for the clients, so they don't have to go to all the different places. Transportation in this county is very difficult to get around. So trying to get your medical needs met, do regular checkups, it's hard enough for us who have a home to do this on a regular basis. So having somebody come into, you know, our day resource center and going out to the shelter sites is really more convenient. So we really tried to partner with those agencies in the community and make it a community effort.
Well, that's, you know, because healthier everybody is, you know.
Yes.
You know, that's and I also understand that while the day center in Waukegan doesn't have on-site showers and laundry, you have access to them or help people get so they can, you know,
Yes.
take care of themselves, to help with everybody's self-respect. and-
Yes, it's very hard to get a job if you can't take a shower. So the church sites at night, there are some church sites who do have showers. And then in the daytime, we do partner with a area church to kind of shuttle people to be able to take showers. Our laundry facility, there's a laundromat right across the street, so we just work with them, and then we're able to pay for people's laundry to kind of help them do that. But also at the day center, if people don't have a mailing address, they can use our address as a mailing address, so they can receive important mail, because that is one of the difficulties if you do apply for any benefits, or you are seeing a doctor, or you're signing up for housing wait lists and stuff. You need to have that address. So we have an address, phone numbers also. We have a confidential voicemail. So if they don't have a phone, they can give out the confidential voicemail, and whoever's trying to contact them will be able to leave a message without knowing that it's a homeless agency that they're leaving a message with. And then we pass that, our staff passes that message along to the clients. So we really try to make it so they can have access to what they need in order to get themselves out of their situation as quickly as possible.
Yeah, it hadn't even occurred to me that, you know, because you need addresses and phone numbers and things like that to do anything. That, you know, that's fantastic. Audrey, seeing as you've volunteered for quite a while, have you seen many changes over the 20 years in, you know, the clients and the services needed, or, you know?
Yeah, I think I think it also is interesting as a volunteer to be involved. You learn not only the changes that happen over a period of time, but you learn that homelessness has a face, and each homeless person is an individual person. They have needs, and I think even just what you were talking about, Megan, about needing things that we don't think about, laundry, access to a shower, an address, and access to a computer, things like that. Those sorts of things have changed more. You need, in order to get back into society, access to those sorts of things. And, 20 years ago, you didn't have a cell phone, but now you need that. People need to be able to contact you. So, yeah, I just think it's important that we know this as volunteers, that each person has a story and each person is an individual. There's not a big blanket statement you can make about the homeless, and even that, just calling them the homeless. They are individual people in a situation. So I appreciate that, and I think every volunteer who does get involved in PADS learns to appreciate that fact.
Well, that's good. And you were talking earlier when we spoke before the show about a coordinated effort. If your church or volunteer organization you're involved with doesn't take care of a PADS shelter, you can contact you at your main office, and they'll get you in contact with somebody who could use your help, because I'm assuming that you've never said, no, we don't need extra volunteers, we're full up. I don't know any volunteer organization, including Senior Issues, et cetera, who isn't looking for a new volunteer. So,
yeah, and I think that this is not true just of PADS, it's true of any organization, but you go because you want to give, and I think volunteers should maybe understand why they're volunteering before they even do it. But you also get back a lot of interesting things. Like, for example, I think most of the volunteers at my church, at the foundational level, the reason, and we have over 40 volunteers working for PADS. Most of the volunteers at the foundational level are doing it because of their identity. Christians love what Jesus loves, and Jesus loves the homeless, is concerned about it, so that's why we do it. But I think it's also important to just know that you're going to come home at the end of your shift, and like, I never fail to walk into my home and feel grateful for my home and my warm bed, and we can just become blind to our blessings and take them for granted, and so there's that. And then also I feel like the guests that I've met at PADS have taught me about finding gratitude in really dire circumstances. You know, when we bring in, our volunteers made biscuits and gravy for breakfast this past week, and it was a scene. Everybody was so happy for it. And just to take that, when you're feeling mentally and emotionally and probably physically in pain and duress, to find some reason to thank me for coming out in the middle of the night, to thank the volunteer for making biscuits and gravy, you get back a lot. You learn a lot.
Okay. Well, we're going to take just a short break and give you a chance to breathe. Now, I'll talk for a few seconds myself. This is the segment where we call it the Pearls in the Middle, where this isn't related to homelessness, but through my friends in the last month or so, several of them have been contacted by an email from a friend saying, could you do me a favor? I need your help, and in one case, could you pick up a gift card for my nephew? It's his birthday and I can't get to one. And these have been criminal attempts to take advantage of people. They somehow got my friend's email address and sent this very nicely worded little, paragraph out asking for help, and some of her friends were suspicious and said, this doesn't sound like you, and called her up, and which was grateful. And others, being the kind people they were, picked up these gift cards and unfortunately sent that money to criminals. So just warning anybody, anytime you get a notification when somebody wants to be paid in a gift card or asks you to buy a gift card, contact the individual you think has sent you this information and say, Jane Smith, is this really you? What's going on? or you can contact your local police department, the non-emergency number. One person called, I think, Amazon or whatever, and said, "This is odd." And they said, "Oh no, never pay anybody in our gift cards. This is probably a scam." But just reminding everybody that there are people out there who need your help, and there are criminals out there who will take advantage of you. And we have to help people. We also have to help ourselves and make sure that, so that you'll have the time to help others. And let's see. Next month's show, we're hoping to have the Senior Center for Lake County come in and talk to us about all the services they have. So, more information we have, and as always, anybody interested in volunteering with Senior Issues, etc., we're anxious to have you come and find out what it's like to be on a little show like ours and helping the crew. So you can contact us at seniorissues.etc@gmail or seniorissuesetcetera.org, and check out our website. Okay, well, I think I've babbled long enough. We'll get back to Pat and our guests, Megan and Audrey. There are different outreach programs that let me start. So when a client comes in and goes to the PAD shelter overnight, they get dinner and mattress pad, beds, blankets, sort of situations like that. Is it there are multiple locations, all the men in one, all the women in the other, that sort of nitty-gritty detail? And I know it varies one night to the next.
Yeah. So we work with 15 area churches, and then those churches have also support groups to help as volunteers, which Audrey is one of them. And then they come in to our day resource center. If they're not working with a case manager during the day, they would just need to be there to check in, kind of for transportation to the church site that night. And then at the church sites, everybody gets a dinner. They all get a pad to sleep on with blankets and pillows, and then they get breakfast in the morning and a sack lunch for the next day. So the volunteers really do the hard work on the overnight shelter.
And they're transported from your center in Waukegan to the
Yes.
site in a bus, and then returned to the center
in the morning.
morning.
So everybody will get to the sites by 7 o'clock each night, and then we take the bus in the morning again, and then take them from the site to our day center, back to our day center if they need to go there to meet with their case managers or just get ready for the day. And
Well, and things vary. You have to have a central location so that everybody gets to the right place, and you just can't have walk-ins all the time. You need to, just coordinate things.
Yeah.
Nothing runs smoothly without behind the scenes. It's the better you do your job, the more seamless it.
Yes.
It just falls together.
yes, yeah, we serve a lot of clients a night. So on average, it's between 60 and 80 people that go to the shelter sites. When it's really cold like this right now, it could go up to 100 people a night. So yes, coordination is the key.
I bet, yeah, especially last-minute notification. That's.
Yeah.
And have the demographics of the people you serve changed? They talk about, that 20 years ago there were more gentlemen coming in, and now it's families.
Yeah, we have a lot of families right now. Well, it seems every year we have a lot of families, but then also people experiencing mental health symptoms and crisis has also increased. So I want to say about 50% of our clientele might have some kind of mental health diagnosis. That's increased, and working with, I believe, people over the age of 60. Oh. That's really where we've seen an increase in our population over the last couple of years, and so a lot more medical issues too.
Okay.
Yeah.
With that, and but my goodness.
I would just say, from my experience, sort of maybe going along with that, at the facility that the church where I serve, it used to be a mix of all different families and men, and we, in the last 2 years, have become a men-only site, which means I miss, in some ways, and yet I don't miss, the broader guest, the children, because that's painful. It's somehow harder to see a child in a homeless situation. So I can imagine. I appreciate that the change made that necessary. Now we have a site that can have up to 40 gentlemen on an evening, and so when I walk in at 3 o'clock for my shift, it's dark and there's a lot of snoring. There's a lot of snoring, a lot of men snoring. But yeah, that just makes a different atmosphere in the site for the night. But I'll tell you this. Even under duress and under stress, it's just super to see the guests working with each other. Sometimes, even within a situation where you think everybody's got it rough, somebody has it the most rough. And so even this past week when I was there, there was gentlemen saying, take care of him first. The person who has a medical issue or something, get his stuff first, get him fed or give him his lunch first. There's still a humanity and a courtesy that goes on even under duress.
And I understand a lot of the people who are taking advantage of the PABs, these individuals have jobs, but they just don't make enough money to afford housing, which is, when you hear about that, and but it doesn't really until somebody says, oh yes, this person has to get out and get to work, and that.
Yeah, I don't think that, I think that there's a thought out there that the people who are using our services are people who aren't, they just need to get a job, and if they just buckle down harder, they can do more, but they don't realize that we do have people that have jobs that do go to work, and there is a lack of affordable housing in the county. And for affordable housing, there's a lot of wait lists. So sometimes it's a waiting game. They're going to their job, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, and it's no fault of their own that they just can't find something that is more affordable that they can move into.
Yeah, because Edwin, you've got a job where, I don't know, what you're making $7 an hour, it's not enough, and you can't go out and get a second job because you're busy at the first job. And particularly if you have children who are going to school, and you have to, bring them to PADS and make sure they've got time for their homework and back. That just, talking about it wears me down, much less somebody having to live that situation.
Yeah.
And, but it's nice to know your organization helps try and find them affordable housing and look for, because where would you look for that if you don't, if it's the first time you've been in that situation?
Yeah, and it's very complicated. That's why, yes, our case managers are great connecting people with what kind of housing they would be appropriate for. So.
Yeah, to find that. Now, you were saying that the average length of time for your clients, they really aren't coming to PADS for an extended period of time. What's the average?
The average is about 30 days.
Okay.
That somebody will stay and use our shelter. And they either find a different place to stay, maybe they've connected again with like family or friends, or they have found that other affordable housing option, which would be nice. But yeah, and then we do have some that do stay for longer periods of time, and the shelter volunteers are very familiar with them. They've been there for years. But that's where we call, it's our chronically homeless. It's less than 5% of our population, I want to say, and usually they do have a disability too. But there's a system within the county that is really connected and making sure that we can identify those clients to try to get them into some kind of appropriate housing.
Okay. And say you become a client of PADS, and you can come and go in sort of a situation. Like you said, the cold nights, some people can, more people will come, and other nights you might be able in a situation where you can couch surf with a co-worker or a friend or something for short periods of time. But yeah, I only recently heard on the radio couch surfing, and I thought that was such a interesting, but it's a good descriptive term of,
yeah,
staying
just
with a
staying on.
friend.
Yeah,
You know.
exactly. Yeah, it's a short
Short-term.
term. Yeah.
Hopefully short-term, everybody, you know,
Yeah.
but, you know, some longer than others, and sometimes, well, the people whose couch you're surfing on just need a little rest, too.
Yes. Yes, it is difficult for all parties, which is why we do really try to reach out, and we're, you know, trying to let people know about our prevention and diversion program, that if you do have somebody that you know of that's experiencing a housing crisis, coming in and getting connected with us right away, so we can really help the whole family or friends, you know, because sometimes it is just mediation, like what do they need to do? Is it just that they need to help out at the house more to stay there longer? So sometimes it's just a little conflict resolution too to help them
Right,
stay.
getting to a neutral party in there to bring up issues that maybe you didn't even realize that was what was annoying you.
Yes.
You know, all family reunions
Yes.
could use a crisis mediator coming to them. But and you had spoken. We talked earlier about veterans. That Lake County's got a pretty good veterans homeless program going on right now.
Yes, they do. So last year we reached, for some people who might have seen, we reached veteran 0. So which means that we have now within our system have been able to kind of house just as many people throughout the month that come into the system. So it doesn't mean that homelessness is going away or that we have ended homelessness. It will always be there because there will always be people experiencing some kind of housing crisis. But with our veterans, we've gotten to the point where as many veterans coming in for the month, like 5, then we can house 5 during that month. So there's nobody adding to our system.
Okay, well that's good. I mean, it's not that it's cured it nationally, but at least this little section of the United States is making some progress.
Yes.
So that's good to hear, because you know you hear about the people talking about, you know, the veterans that are homeless and whatnot, you know. But I guess Lake County's lucky that we have a VA presence here in Lake County that makes it a little easier than some. But you can't have a VA hospital on every corner.
Yeah.
Let's see. I want to make sure that things that I wanted to talk about I've gotten here. And you have programs to help people stay in their homes or their apartments before ending up homeless. That's an important thing that I hadn't realized about her.
Yeah, so I should probably go over, I didn't go over all of our programs. I probably should go over our programs. So one is the housing program. So the housing program, it's permanent supportive housing, and it is taking our clients who are chronically homeless and getting them into their own apartments. With that, they also receive in-home case management. So our case managers go to the house to meet with them in their home to make sure that they are successful and they can remain in housing so they don't return to the system. So that is, we have about 24 units, and that is part of that with our Housing First program. Our Housing First program is not government funded. It is completely private donations. It's our crowdfunding, and but it runs just like our government funded housing program. We also have an outreach program that meets people in the streets. So when they can't go into somewhere, they have to, if they get into the streets, they don't want to come into our shelter, so we meet with them out in the streets and try to encourage them into our shelter. And then our case management during the day really tries to connect people, at least get documentation. So IDs, birth certificates, social security cards, to at least start the process.
Okay. Well, we're running out of time. We could probably have done this a little while longer. I appreciate you coming in and speaking with us, and encourage everybody to call or contact PADS. I think that's a great organization. You have a lot more going on than I had realized to help people and to prevent them from ending up in the shelter. And once they get there, to let them know what's out there.
Yeah.
I think it's wonderful. I thank you for coming in and speaking with us, and I hope that this has been helpful to our audience and to you as an organization. And thank you again for coming.
Thank you.
All right. Good evening.